Hi guys, and welcome back to my making a role-playing game series where I today am talking about the Refuge. Last week we did the summary episode where we summarized the entrance to Castle Everhollow, and that went very well. And today we are going back to our brainstorming roots.
Wait. Do you guys notice that? Let's just continue to see.
And we will try to figure out this refuge. I call it the refuge now. It's the. There's two extremes to how I would approach this mechanic. It is the Knights of the Hidden Realms, and that knight will help you. Teenagers and hormones don't mix well together when it comes to being responsible adults. Maybe there's like 2, 3, or 4 sessions where before the players get to their goal.
Yeah, you can see it here that this video is crap. So this was an off day for me. First of all, it's a new location, so I didn't set up all the different things with the camera and the audio and so on, so that was bad. But also, well, I'm all over the place, talking about a lot of different things that, well, yeah, it's just a mess. It really reminds me of the first episode that I did, which is fine, but I'm trying to do something better. So, here's the problem. I can start this episode again, do it one more time, but I've already written all the things on the page, so I could erase them, but that would be sort of weird. But I could also try to just move on as if these pages don't exist, but they do exist. So I'm not quite sure of what I should do. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna try to fix this. And we're back. A new day, set up things a little differently, and yeah, I'm hoping to do this better this time. So, one thing that is new today is something that I did yesterday. I made this. There, a lot better. So, yes, these are the first official rules of Explorers RPG. It's very fun. I mean, I have had these rules for a while, but now I tinkered with them and made it a lot better, the text quite clear and so on. So yeah, this is really good. So here I explain both dice, how dice works, and these this countdown die mechanic that I was talking about behind this here. So the idea is that dice, I like dice. I like to have all the different types of dice. I don't discriminate except for maybe D20. I think D20 has had a little bit too much popularity, so I want to use the rest to weigh up for this. So the idea is that you have an order of dice. You have the D4 is less than D6, which is less than D8, D10, and then D12 is the biggest. You can use this to increase and decrease dice. If a die is increased, the die type directly to the right of the order is used. So you go up, this is an increase, and then you decrease, you go down. And if you decrease a D4, it always results in a 1, and an increase of D12 always results in a 12. That's the rules. That's the rules I'm going to have. Now, I'm told then in this video that you're not seeing, I talked about countdown dice. So countdown dice was actually, I'm not sure if it was invented, but it was used in Black Hack, which is an RPG rules thing. I haven't played it myself, and I just read the rules and I saw the usage dice and I thought that was very cool and I wanted to use it myself. So with countdown dice, I have said now that your health, your supply, and spirit, where spirit here is your, ability, mana pool, something, action points, whatever. It's the thing you do to use abilities. That's spirit. So health, supply, and spirit each use countdown die, which is either a D4, D6, D8, or a D12. When the game calls for it, you roll the die against the target value. If the result of the roll is that's a typo right there. Okay. Hold on. There we go. So if the roll is higher than the target value, it's a success. If the roll is equal to or below, I'm actually gonna see. Again, we're doing this. We're editing while we're talking. This is fun. So if the result is equal to or lower than the roll, it is a fail. If you fail the roll, in addition to any other effects, the countdown die is decreased. The decreased die will be used for all subsequent rolls until you are able to increase it, or until you fail the roll again, in which it will be further decreased. So, for example, if you roll your D8 health die against a target value of 5, you succeed on 6 or more. If you roll a 5 or less, you fail and decrease your health die to a D6. If you must roll again against a 5, if you must roll against a 5 again, there you go. You roll the D6 and must decrease it to D4 if you roll 5 or less. That's the rules. So the idea here is that if you take damage, for instance, you roll against your die. So if you take 5 damage, you roll against your d8. And then that means that if you have a d12 health, which will be you're a fully healthy individual, you roll against this 5 damage, which is hurt you a lot, but you'll survive it fairly well. But then as you go down into a d10, d8, d6, and d4, you eventually, that 5 damage just becomes a lot more damage. It's a lot more dangerous. And that is something that I like in all of this. So I want to implement this countdown die mechanic into many aspects of the game that has to do with resources. The main advantage with this countdown die mechanic here is that you don't have to track all the resources that you're spending. So let's say, for instance, in D&D, if you have 20 arrows in a quiver, then every time you shoot an arrow, you will have to mark down each and every time you do it, which is tedious because then you have to do it 20 times. Now, 20 arrows is approximately equal to a d8 with a target against a target value of 2. Against a target value of 1, actually. So against a target value of 1. So whenever you then attack someone, you roll the d8, and if you roll a 1, then you mark down and go down to d6, and if you get a 1 again, you go down to d4, and then a 1 again, and then you're out. You're finished with your arrows. So whenever you mark down using the countdown die, you mark it to a d6, a d4, and then a 1. So that's 3 times. That means that you've reduced the whole marking down and updating your character sheet from 20 times to just 3. And that is a very important aspect because that makes it more interesting and more engaging to actually count and track your resources, which is something that I really want to do in the game. So let's talk about this refuge, the settlement, the camp, the home base of the players. This is where they're going to rest after they've successfully done some exploring in the castle. Now, the idea behind this mechanic is that you have a spectrum on how much time you should spend in this refuge. I can have it very short, very predictable and tactical, which means similar to the long rest in D&D, where I would just say, you take a long rest, update your character sheet, do all the things, do all the necessary rolls, and you're done. That's 5 minutes where you just update your character sheets. That is the short, predictable, and tactical version. Then you have the elaborate and descriptive and fluid version, where you will have to interact with the NPCs, and each of the NPCs requires something, and you have to go on a fetch quest, and you have to soothe them, you have to interact with them, make them happy, and make them sort of like this Tamagotchi style version where you just have to constantly maintain the people in the refuge in order to get the resource replenishment and so on that you want. And that will take a lot of time. I mean, spending 1 hour talking to people and figuring out plans, gathering new resources, talking to other people and negotiating in disputes and so on, it's gonna take a lot of time. Again, this is a fun and interesting mechanic if that is the purpose of the game. But it's not completely. The idea behind the game is that you should spend time here. You should care about this refuge, and it should be a good source of character interaction and adventure, side quests, and so on. But it shouldn't be dominating. And that's why I actually set up though the refuge should be on both sides here. It should both be very short and predictable. So if it's a very intense moment inside the castle, then the players should go out, take a rest, be done, then move right in and just continue the action. While if the pace in the castle itself is slow and maybe the build-up is over several sessions, then we can introduce side quests here that will help make some more tension and so on in the game. And that is why I came up with this tension mechanic. The tension mechanic here is so that it builds up each day. And I sort of want it to function like a countdown die. So it builds up every day, so the target value each day starts to increase. And this is a tension that comes because, well, you are stranded survivors on a beach. So there's different religions there's diseases, there's hunger, there's maybe no authority to lean on for guidance, so people have to fend for themselves. And this tension here builds up over time. And maybe there's a murder or a crime, and people are starting to get scared, and it starts to get more and more crimes happening each night, and this tension starts to build up. People are getting restless, people are getting anxious. What are they going to do? Then the players have to intervene and negotiate, create a trial, gather some evidence, and so on, to resolve building up a legal system, a temporary legal system, and so on. And these smaller side quests here are things that I want the players to focus on when it comes to this tension here. And then I thought that maybe if I use this countdown die here for this tension mechanic, it could work. So maybe you start out with maybe a low to medium tension around like a D6 or D8 in the beginning of the game, and as the tension rises, if at some point there's a big event such as a protest or a murder or something big that happens, then you have to roll the countdown die, and if you fail, you decrease the die. Now, in order to increase this countdown die, I thought that let's add some progress. The progress that it gives the players something to care about. And not only do they have to care about the NPCs because they're funny and interesting, but they also care because they mechanically in the game will get benefits. They will either get more resources or they will get better resources. So more resources would mean maybe that they got some better supply. So better resources would be that maybe because you helped the blacksmith set up his a temporary workspace, then you can sharpen your swords and you will get better swords, basically. Or you could get buffs, for instance, that you help the doctor set up and get some ingredients for his medicines, so that now you get extra bonuses on skill rolls because you have a healthier diet or something. You could get more companions to help you around, to carry your stuff or help you defend an area or something, because people are less worried about survival and gathering food, and can then spend the rest of their time, their free time, to help you out. And easier bonuses, I just said a thing, so I'm not sure what this is yet. But anyways, this is what I'm working with. I want the players to progress in gaining all of these different things, and that this is what is at stake whenever they roll the countdown die. If they fail the countdown die roll, they will lose maybe one or more of these benefits temporarily and maybe permanently. And that helps them care about this particular area. Now, I've talked about why this is the way it is, and now I want to focus on what different side quests can we actually have here. Or let's say just major events. We don't have to do all of them, but I want to start to brainstorm on what different things that could be implemented as major side quests and maybe countdown die worthy problems. So let's say murder, that's one, and plague or some sort of disease. Ooh, that made me think about ghost ships. The interesting thing about ghost ships is that it came about during the Black Death. So the thing was that the Black Death killed a lot of people. Before they died, they would go on ships, and then they would catch the disease, then die, and so the ships themselves would be just loaded with dead people. And eventually these ships floated into a port or a harbor, and people start to believe that, yeah, this is just a normal ship docking this harbor. And then they understood eventually that all the people here were dead. And of course, when they started to investigate, they all started dying from the Black Death. But the people thought that, since they didn't have modern medicine, they thought that it was the ghosts of the ships that came and cursed them. So therefore, these ghost ships would be, haunted ships that just came into your port and killed everyone that took them in. And this is a very interesting thing because, as I said previously, the idea is that players has a huge calamity here, and the PCs go on a boat and end up in the shores of Everhollow. Now the idea might be that there's several of these ships, but these ones are the ones that survive. And so a lot of ghost ships just arrive at this shore with a lot of dead people. Now you get all the resources, you get a bunch of new resources, but you have to fend off a plague or a death or maybe even actual ghosts. So yeah, this is going in. Then we'll have religious tension. So let's say that there's a couple of cults or something that are trying to pray to their gods because, well, definitely this is a prayer-worthy situation. Then we can have fire. Oh, a fire. That's really good. Burning up your resources. Oh, very nice. Then we can have some, let's say, haunted woods. Maybe there's a creature there taking people away at night, something. Yeah, I'm just putting it in there. Maybe we'll have other survivors arriving. Yeah, so at some point a new ship arrives with, I don't know, bandits. Oh, let's say hiding away resources. Some people are trying to get greedy and trying to survive a little better than others, and so they're just stealing resources and hiding them, stashing them away for their own benefit. That could also mean hunger, because, well, you need some sort of food source. That's how about a storm? A storm, huge storm. That would be interesting. Maybe even a raid, so that they get raided by bandits. Maybe these goblin creatures here. Maybe these. Definitely not gonna use all of them, but 11 different major events that could happen over a span of a campaign as side quests. Yeah, it's a good thing. Okay, I think I'll just end it here. This episode was very weird. I got something out of it, but still, it's still very weird, and I'm trying to get better at whatever format I'm trying to do here. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing, so I mean, leave a comment if you have some ideas on how to make me improve. And of course, like and share the video, share it with your GM, and yeah, subscribe, I guess. So, see you around.